Okay, everybody, this is in class assignment 5, part 3, uh, custom stairs, custom railings, interior partition walls, and ramps. So I went ahead and added in some custom railings and stairs, and then also the interior walls on level 1 and level 2, including the curtain doorways, the bifold doors, and some embedded curtain panels in the exterior finishing system. If everybody could have these elements in their model by Tuesday, that would be fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and now start what we went over in class today. However, at the end of the tutorial, I am going to introduce the ramp out front, the ramp down to the patio space. And so if you guys could get that portion done as well. That's the ramp here and this little patio space, along with the custom staircase, custom railing, and the interior walls on the first floor and second floor, along with these windows to the exterior. That would be awesome. Oh, as well, I added a custom welcome desk here in the front entry area. So if you could update your model to have these aspects in there, again, you can have fun with this and create a cool custom staircase. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about stairs and railings today, and maybe if we have time we'll talk about ramps. But we're going to do it outside of in-class assignment 5. We're going to explore how you can kind of create custom stairs, custom railings, custom balusters, and use the rail tool in a little bit different way than what you might imagine you could use the railing tool for. And so basically I'd like you to apply what you learned today to the in-class assignment 5, making stairs and a railing and a custom reception desk, basically. Over the weekend or before the project is due next weekend. So yeah, so let's get started. So there's let's start with stairs, and we're going to start to look at how we can model some of these different types of stairs. There are two, underneath the architecture tab, under circulation, there are two ways to create stairs. There's stair by component and then stair by sketch. I found that using the stair by component is the simplest way to initially create a staircase, and then you can customize it and manipulate it after you create it. But we'll briefly talk about both, because you'll utilize kind of stair by sketch in the stair by component. But the kind of thing about the stair by component is that you're
when you're drawing the stair, you're drawing a three-dimensional stair. And so if I just hit WT, I can tile my viewports here, so I can see my 3D viewport and my floor plan at the same time. And so if we start out in the floor plan, sketching by component, you really have a lot more options than what it seems like here. But we have a straight stair, a full step spiral stair, central or center end spiral stair, L-shaped winders and U-shaped winders as kind of components to start out with. So when you have your run selected and you choose which particular tool you want to use to start creating your stair type, you can, in the options bar here, have a few options. The line location or location line is fairly important. If you're trying to model within a tight space, you might find switching your line where you start to draw from might be better suited in one of these other options, because it allows you to kind of start the stair right up against a wall, say, if you were needing it in a confined space, whereas with the center line, you're kind of like, oh, it's 3-foot stair, 4-foot stair, wherever you want to start out at. You're starting in the middle, and so it's hard to kind of figure out where that middle should be exactly. So sometimes it's easier to use one of the other drawing ways. I'm just going to stick with the run center for now because I'm not really in a confined space. So at any rate, the properties dialog box of the stair itself allows you to adjust the base level constraint, top level constraint similar to a wall, and it knows that distance between the two, so it has a fixed number of risers that you need to draw in order to get from one to the other. And so as you start to draw it, it'll tell you how many you've drawn, how many you still need to draw, and you can also change like how many desired risers you want. So once you start manipulating that number, it affects the slope of the staircase depending on how many there are there. And also you can kind of change your tread depth as well. Here in the instance properties. So I'm just going to start out, kind of move over here just a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. But so right now I'm just kind of, as you draw, it puts in the runs, and you can see down here at the bottom as I move it, it's telling me, oh, I've placed 8 risers created and I need 10 more remaining. So I'm just going to do kind of half and half, right, 9, and I'll click and see it creates a 3-dimensional staircase there. And now to create the second half of it, I'll just move out in space here and keep it aligned and create the rest of it, and automatically creates a landing. And you can adjust this landing, you can adjust these stairs after you placed it manually here with these pull mechanisms. If we finish this stair as it is and I scroll in on it, you can see that it's kind of doing a funky thing, in here with the railing. And forget about the actual railing there. That this is from the earlier class. I forgot to change it back. At any rate, you can start to adjust that and manipulate how that sits by editing the stair and changing your landing. So for instance, if we pulled on, if we selected our landing and pulled this arrow, we can adjust the steps to start having a little space here, like before we start rising again, so that when we finish the model, it starts to look kind of normal, and so you don't end up with these disjointed railings. So I'm just going to pull that out to, you can type in 1/6 in the temporary dimension as I do that. Maybe I'll just go ahead and do that as well on this side. And you can see now that that's starting to make more of a clean clean railing, and it doesn't have these awkward jump ups, so to speak. The other thing that we can do is, if we want to change the spacing after the fact, right, between the two sets of stairs, we have a temporary dimension here that dimensions between the run and the run of the stair. And so we can change that to kind of any size, and you can see that by doing that you can kind of start to make different size staircases in that sense. And then you can also change the width, right? So 4 feet, and of course you'd want, now it goes from the center, so now this 2 inches, you know, we want that to be 8 inches so that there's a decent space in there. But so for instance, for egress codes, right, where you have a fire stair and a certain occupancy load, when you look it up in the codes, you'll take that load and apply a multiplier. I think it's like 0.02 per occupant, and that tells you how wide your stairs or how wide your doorways need to be for fire egress. So you can start to, in your projects, account for that, right? And so you're not kind of just, well, I just need a 3-foot stair, I'll be good. In actuality, you know, you might have 100 occupants and you need, you know, 40 inches or 4 feet or 5 feet worth of stair as those people start to come down. And so you can start to account for that in that way, and change the width of your stairs for that particular reason. So you can do it with the pull bars too if you want. So, you know, you can make these as wide as you want, and it automatically adjusts. And sometimes you'll get some warnings. The little yellow ones that come up, you can or orange, whatever that color was, you can pretty much ignore them. And if there's a serious warning, it won't let you do it. It'll just be like, no. The other thing to be aware of is you can change after the fact. So maybe you want 4 or 5 risers here before you hit your landing. You know, you can start to change that, and it shrinks the other side. And so it also automatically adjusts the height of this, so this stays at ground level, and your landing then starts to shrink as well with it. You know, it starts to get lower. I guess it'd be nice to have like a floor there so you can kind of see that reference. I clicked on stair. So as I pull this out, it adjusts, it starts raising the landing up relative to what it needs. So it kind of does some automatic functions, which is kind of nice. The other thing is you can start to edit these by sketch. So we've got a pretty unconventional, we got a very conventional kind of straight stair, right? And maybe we want our landing to do something else entirely. We can go and convert it, and it's going to pop up a warning that says once you convert it, it won't be an automatic landing anymore, meaning it won't start to play nice with the adjusting of the other elements. But it allows you to edit the sketch of it. And so basically you have the green lines are the boundary lines, and the blue line is the stair path. And both are fairly important to have the boundary lines, completely connected together, and you have to continue the stair path and connect it so it knows that it's a landing. And when we start to do the same thing to like the stair risers, you'll have another tool here that says risers. And so you just have to be careful about which line color you're using in which place. But we can start to manipulate this. So if we want, a round, nice big round landing, we can do that, and the rail adjusts to it. But we can also do something more unique. You can start playing around with this, but at any rate, you can do fairly unique things with the landing, and same with the risers. So we can convert these and then edit the sketch and see how that now we have a riser line here. So we could pull this out, and I don't know, we'll see if this works. But the other thing is with the risers, instead of the boundary lines connecting together, you use the risers to connect, right? The paths. So we could use our extend tool to kind of extend the rest of these. Whoops. Over to that line, and this one went a little too far, so we'll pull him back. At any rate, you can start to manipulate that stair however you want, and you can use a round path as well. Tried to do one fairly unique where we just had this this round thing at the bottom, and it like gave us all sorts of warnings, and it didn't like it. But you can start to say change the way the risers sit too, so you don't necessarily need to have a straight riser, right? So oh, gotta be careful. I'm picking the wrong one. And so the stairs don't necessarily have to be straight perpendicular lines. You can start to manipulate the risers as well. And of course the railing will kind of follow the path, hopefully. And sometimes if it's real unique, it doesn't like to follow the path. And so you could probably delete it and edit, and I don't think it'll come back, but yeah, so it won't come back. So if you're having problems with one, and maybe it's like not liking the way the railing is positioned, you could delete it, finish the stair, you know, and then redraw a new railing path with the railing tool. And so you could start to do this manually. And maybe we don't want it to, and this is the emergency egress for handicap or something, I don't know, mid-landing, because they'd be there, right? The other kind of important thing to note about railings when you start to draw your own is that, whoops, I forgot to change that to a regular railing. It initially starts out on whatever level you're working in, but you can go ahead and use the pick host, and hopefully that'll snap up to this guy. Yeah, and it will. So it didn't quite work on all spots. You can see it had given me a warning, and so maybe it's getting geometry confused. But the other kind of thing to note is that if you have a change in your level or your slope, right, from this stair to the landing to this stair, and then if you wanted to continue this, say, on level 2 somewhere, you have to stop the, you have to make separate lines. So where the slope changes, you need a separate line. Otherwise, it's going to continue to follow that path. So if we were, well, let's delete all of this and delete all of that and just use this line and pull him down to here and say OK, and then pick path. Come on, little buddy. It doesn't even want me to do that, which is kind of funny, because it doesn't know what to do because it's two separate slopes, right? So you got to be careful about that and make sure that you break the line segment where the slope changes. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble drawing your railings, any custom railings. Like a good example is if you had a second floor and you wanted to continue that railing without interruption, you know, and you had a balcony space that looked down, like we do in our in-class assignment 5. You don't want to have to draw two separate railings, and they won't ever connect. So you do it all in one, but just make sure that you break where the slope changes, you know, separate lines, and so it'll be a continuous then. If that makes some sense. Maybe it'll be easier if I just copy. I'm getting blank stairs, so I will copy. God, I'm spacing out today. Copy to clipboard and paste to level 2. And obviously it's not really in the right spot, but let's just move them down to about there. So we have the railing and it's at that slope, and then go ahead and do something like that. It'll start, you know, it'll connect evenly, right? Instead of, let's do it on the other side. Yeah, let's just create a new railing. And so there's a railing that's already there, right? that we want another railing. We don't want those. It's a different railing entirely, so it's really not looking right. But you know, you're going to start ending up with very odd intersections that don't quite work out for you. It's a lot cleaner to do it this way. And just as a side note here, if we tab through, this particular railing has an extension on it. If we tab through to the top railing that's on the rail, we can edit its path here in 3D or 2D, whichever is easiest for you to do. We can edit, we can reset the rail and edit it, and it allows you to put an extension on the rail itself. It's not letting me select that stuff. Oh, because I need to edit the path first. So it opens up this little dialog box where you can click edit path or reset rail, edit path, and now you have the capability to add like an ADA bar rail, right, to this if you wanted to. It's kind of hard to work in 3D. You have to really kind of work at it. But you know, we could do something, if I can get it to work right. Yeah, it's not really working right. It's hard to do in 3D. It's easier to do in like north elevation. Let's see here if we drop to our north elevation. I have no idea which one we're working on, and it looks like it's cut off anyways. But you get the picture, right? You can start to edit the ends of the rails. So you can come up with custom railings if you want. So like this just continues down, and I did some funky shape, but it could very well easily be, you know, ADA compliance, right? And maybe just have that loop there instead of this whole extra thing. Okay, so just kind of experimenting with some more of these types of stairs. This full step spiral stair allows you to create a fairly, it's kind of based off the radius, so as you narrow in, the radius gets smaller or wider, and if you had a particular face that you needed this to rest on, like maybe we'll just go down here to this wall, you know, we can start to align it to something, and it automatically creates the full set of steps. And so that's cool, but it's not necessarily maybe what you want. This center end spiral gives you a little more, well, we're still in the same. Let's finish that guy and start a new one. So this allows you to create, you know, maybe 9 steps and then brake for a landing. It's not the easiest tool to use. I don't really use it much, but at any rate, Yeah, I don't know why anybody would use this tool, but it's there. You can use it, and it puts in a landing, and then you can continue up. Right, so it allows you to add a landing where this one doesn't allow you to add a landing. This is the full stair, and this one allows you to stop and start. And again, just like our regular straight stair, you can start to edit these. So, you know, we can start to convert that and edit it as well. And so maybe it has some kind of cool twisting element down here that starts the first step and then goes up, right? So you can make some unique stairs in that respect. And then you have your L-shaped, and it's kind of like a stamp stool. You can stamp it and then start to manipulate it a bit using the arrows. And then you can also convert these as well. And you can start to manipulate them even further using your boundary riser and stair path. It's pretty important that the stair path starts at the bottom riser and goes all the way through to the top riser. You won't be able to finish the stair if you don't, and definitely break it similar to like a railing. So if you were going to go to a landing, you would want to break that line and draw a separate line for the landing, and then continue up the steps. You wouldn't want a continuous line. And the U-shaped. So similarly, not similarly. I don't use these too often. You know, in residential houses where you have to, you know, account for some really tight space, maybe you'll start to use these. You know, maybe an existing home that you're doing an addition on, or putting a new stair into a basement that has a really funky, you know, small space. You'll start using these, but I think you're better off kind of sticking with the straight run and manipulating that into something unique for your building. So let's talk about kind of the different options that you have under your properties edit tab for stairs, and let's do that in a straight stair. This file's really getting bogged down. Too many stairs. Let's just draw one. There it is. So we'll get to railings in a second, but let's talk about the stairs itself. We can start to edit the type, and well, let's back up 1 second. So there are three main families. There's the assembled stair, the cast in place stair, and a precast stair that kind of come customized with the architectural template. And so any other type of stair that you make will be starting from one of these three families. And so basically you want to duplicate. Always duplicate Because what happens is if you don't and you have that stair, you start making a custom stair and you have one in the other part of the project, whatever you do to this stair, it'll do to this stair. Not necessarily drawing like the custom line work and stuff, but like materials and anything within the type properties. So you always want to duplicate it. And the options that you kind of get in here are you can change the height of the risers and the tread depth. So if you want, a unique set of steps where you're going up maybe 2 or 3 inches and the depth of the tread is like a foot or 2, you got some really drawn out long stairs, maybe something for exterior or whatever, or a museum. This is where you kind of make those adjustments. And the width as well. So the initial width that we've been drawing with is 3 feet, but you can go in and start to change that to whatever you really want. And if you want it to change, I would recommend that you set this up prior to drawing the actual set of steps, because it didn't adjust, right? It's still a 3-foot stair, even though it's this tread, this third duplicate stair that we made. So make sure you have your settings set up before you draw your stair. It's kind of backwards from what I'm showing, but that's just a good side note. The stair calculator is really not intuitive, and I recommend just leaving it alone. I often find if I manipulate the numbers, nothing happens to the stair either. So if you really want more desired risers, you would change it in the instance property and then adjust accordingly, and it'll change the slope of the stairs in that regard. In the construction of the step itself, you have run type, and this seems like, oh, this is the only type I have, right? This 2-inch tread, 1-inch nosing, and a 1/4-inch riser. If you click on this, you'll notice we have a little button here we can select, similar to adding a parameter kind of in the instance properties of stuff. And what it does is it opens up another property type. And if you start to make changes here, again, you want to duplicate it before you start making those changes, because this type is applied to other staircases in the project. So once you open the secondary type properties within here, you can start to add material to the tread or to the riser. And the reason why the riser is grayed out is because right now I have it unchecked. But if I checked it, now all of a sudden you can apply material to the riser, and you can change the thickness of the riser, you can change the thickness of the thread, you can also change the profile. So, if you wanted to make a custom tread profile as a separate family and load it into your project, you could start to use a different type of profile. And I think it's just a regular one. I'm not sure if they have an actual tread profile, but as you open up new families, if there's a profile that says tread, that's specifically for a tread profile, similar to railing or like a profile rail or a profile reveal, profile sweep. So they're all categorized according to their use. And so you have to use the right family type in order to use it properly once you load it in the file. And you can also change the riser as well. You know, you can create a riser profile that's different than just the default tread. It gives you options about how the riser to tread connection works. You can extend the tread under the riser, join all the risers and tread together so they look like they're one unit and not separate. Excuse me. You can apply a profiling to it. I'm just curious to see what that does at the moment. At any rate, some stuff doesn't work as well as others. So there are lots of options under here for changing the tread and the nosing and the riser type. And again, if you start to manipulate that, make sure you duplicate it and rename it for the custom staircase that you're making. With that, back, and when you hit OK, it goes back to the original properties that you open up for the stair assembly. And under supports, you can choose whether or not you want a support on the right side or left side or in the middle, or an open carriage look. So that's an open carriage look versus none. Oh, I'm on the wrong side. I wonder why that's not working out as I wanted it to. So right now we're seeing a closed stringer. We apply, you'll see it change to an open carriage or none, and it goes away. And the middle support here, you can apply middle supports and say we want no riser, or no risers and a middle support. You can start to make some custom stairs. If you want more than one support, you can change that here. So maybe you want 2 supports. And then you can tab through to select the individual support, and you can go ahead and start to edit its particular type as well. So the size of it, structural depth, the width of it, the material of it, and same with the, if we go back to the stair itself and put back on one of these, I should have done the left side. You can go ahead and tab through it to select it and start to change it as well. It gives you a little more option. You can select a profile. So you can see what this does. So it changes the look of it. It's actually on the wrong side, so you can't see it very well. I think we can flip the profile. Yeah, so now you're starting to see that C section or C channel on the exterior side of that. So there's a lot of things you can do to customize your stairs, in your edit type properties of the stairs themselves. And of course you can apply different materials to them, make them look like wood, glue lambs, you name it. So now let's kind of take a look at a railing and see what we can do with that. So I'm just going to look at this one for now. It's a
fairly standard rail type. The rail types that come with it are the glass panel, bottom filled, guardrail pipe, guardrail rectangle, hand pipe, handrail rectangle, and these are kind of all new ones that we've created in this file so far. But if we go ahead and edit the type of this one, we can duplicate it, and we have a rail structure and a baluster placement edit function. In the rail structure is where these horizontal rails are located in here. So as we start to maybe delete a few of these and hit apply, they start to go away. And so you can add as many as you want in there. And the way that it works is that it starts at 0, your level, and you adjust the height of them. You can adjust the profile. So if you wanted to bring in a custom profile, you could do that. That was one I made this morning. And it's just like a big fat rectangle. And this is where you apply the materials to those profiles as well. So it's basically a sweep along the rail path. And you can offset it from the rail path, and it's literally the line that you draw, that purple line, is the center of that rail path. So that's what you're offsetting from. The baluster placement is the vertical balusters. This is the main pattern. So the more you add to here, let's see, we can duplicate this a couple of times, and it basically says, okay, down here is a start post that from the very start point to the end point, we have a start point, a corner point, and an end point. And so those define those particular points. But then it goes start pattern, right, which is this start point, and then it starts this pattern. So every 4 feet, this particular baluster will be set, and then 4 feet off of that, this baluster will be set, and then 4 feet off that, this baluster will be set, and it repeats that pattern over and over again until it hits a corner or an end post, and then it puts a corner or an end post in. And so you can change the heights, the bases of these based off of the horizontal rails that you placed. So you can have a real crazy pattern if you want. You can pretty much do anything. And then the top constraint would be the top rail, which is outside of this function, and that's this top rail here, which gets applied a little later on. But again, you have a base offset from that host or from that rail that you're hosting it from. You have a top offset from the top rail as well. This is your distance, and then this is your offset left or right from the center line. And the same kind of applies down here for these posts as well, the start post, corner post, and end post. And again, you can change the profile, and if you have a custom, or not the profile, you can change the baluster to be something completely different. So like you could put a lamp post in there, or you could draw a custom baluster that's really unique, that's curvy, and it will be there. But again, you have your base offset, your top
top offset. And then spacing, I believe, is from the actual start, or no, it's how much spacing is between, yeah, isn't that right? It's the spacing between the start of this one and that one, right? Yeah. It's like there's so much that you can do, it's almost overwhelming. So, and I don't think you can add to this one, but you can add to the main pattern, and you can kind of change that. So, this is your top rail. So this is this rail right here that runs along the top. And again, you can change the profile of it. And we only have a few loaded in. I don't know why it's not updating right away. But you can also set the height of it as well. So we can change that to 4 feet. And that bumped up. And that did change. It just was too far away. We couldn't see it change. But yeah, so it changed to a circular. And then you also have an option to add an additional handrail on either side. So the positioning of it allows you to set it to the left side, the right side, or both. And you could have more than one. They give you an option for 2. And I believe you can start to change the type of rail, and maybe you want it wall mounted, and it gives you these little hooks that attach into the wall. And so if you had this railing along a wall, that's how it would be attached. Otherwise it kind of just floats in space. And again, I'm pretty sure that you can use a custom profile in this area if you wanted. You just have to use the correct family type to get it in there. So let's look at some how to kind of create custom profiles and custom balusters. And then we'll get into looking at how we can do some custom stuff. So like this object right here is actually a railing, and so that profile is swept along that railing, and these little wine glasses are actually balusters. So you can create a family, a generic model family, load it into your baluster family, and then load that baluster family into your project, and you can place that along that rail path spaced out exactly how you would want it spaced. Similarly, you see I did it with lights, you know. So, and you can do it with big, you know, as many lights as you want. And so it's just a matter of going in and saying, changing the baluster to being this specific family, and adjusting it accordingly so that it follows the path. Getting ahead of myself. I think that's one of the coolest things about the rail tool. You can make custom furniture like reception desks or anything by drawing a profile and then sweeping it along that path. In the same respect, you could do it with an in-place component as well, but it's just cooler that it can be done in a rail path. So, let's take a look at some family types here. So I'm going to go to New Families. Nah, we don't want to save. And let's see here. There are 3 different types of balusters. This one gives you some really interesting angles that you can start to work with, and some predetermined, just open it, predetermined parameters. So you can align things to these predetermined predetermined parameters and adjust the angles of them for the baluster. This one's a little more complicated than kind of just the simple one. So I just want to kind of show that you can utilize this, and they have a couple already that you can load in as well that utilize that. So like if we were going to go to the insert tab and load a family, they do have under railings, they have, that's the one support that I showed you that, you know, but you could make your own support. There's termination, wood panel, and then there's these different variety of balusters. And so you'll see like this one has a cut angle here. That's using that particular family that I just showed. And here's some other ones that are kind of standard with Revit, but again, and these are panels, so these are the panel family where you can start to make glass panels as balusters as well. And so that's how, you know, you see this standard glass panel bottom filled. That's just a baluster, right? And it's set up accordingly so that it spaces evenly between these flat steel balusters, right? So anyways, let's go back to family type, and let's just grab the baluster post family. So there's initial parameter, baluster height. Are those angles in this one too? Didn't think they were. Yeah, they're not, but they come up. That's interesting. Maybe I have some multiple families open here and I don't realize it. At any rate, sometimes it gets awkward with that WT tiling windows. You have a lot of windows open and you don't know what's going on. Sometimes it's easiest to just hit the close button and look at one window at a time. We could use the revolve tool, the sweep tool, the extrusion tool to create a custom one. I'm just going to do kind of an interesting sketch path, and let's just pick, what are we in the left? So we'll go left, right, and so we could just start sketching. Maybe we'll use back to center here, cancel to close the command, and then hit the check button there, and then we can edit the profile of this sweep. Level 1 sounds good, and we'll just do maybe a hexagon or something, 6-sided polygon. So we have this pretty unique looking baluster. You can go ahead and save that. And load it back into our project. And now let's apply it to this guy, the moment. So we go back into our baluster placement, and we could change
this now to, what did I call that guy? Anybody remember? Anybody paying attention? Thank you. Let's see what happens. So we drew that one on the left-right axis, and it put it kind of horizontal with the same direction as the run of our railing. Maybe we want it to be perpendicular, so we can just go back and start changing that. So that's a good lesson right there, using the left-right. Using this axis, the center left-right, is going to make it run parallel with the rest of the rail, whereas if we edit this work plane and change it, let me change it. What's wrong with you? So it doesn't want me to change it. That's funny. But anyways, we want to change it. Let's see what happens if we set it here. Yeah. So just recall, using the left-right center axis, it puts it parallel with the rail, whereas using the using the front back is going to make it perpendicular to the rail. So let's just go to the back and redraw that really quickly so you can see the difference. Make sure you finish your command before you try to save it. Like, why is it giving me all these problems? I'm sure that you all have wondered that. So let's just change maybe this middle one to baluster 2. Say okay. And you'll see now it's being placed in a different direction. So just kind of put that on the back burner, that the left-right runs parallel with the rail and the front to back is perpendicular to the rail when you start to create your custom railing balusters. Okay. Well, let's look at profile rail. It's very similar to the profile reveal that we made, except that instead of this line being the wall face, it's now the rail center line. And this is denoting the top of the rail. So if I wanted to start to draw something
other than a railing, profile, right? Maybe some sort of reception desk-esque looking thing. And I'm not really being too careful about this at the moment, but you would probably want to take some care in thinking about the height of it in relation to a person. So that's a pretty crappy one, but it gets the point across, right? Do a save as, new family type, and let's go reception desk 2, hit save. We'll load that into my stair. And we're just going to go to level 1, nice and slowly. It's probably because my visibility graphics is showing my lights, and that's why it's taking time. But at any rate, duplicate this. Maybe I don't want to duplicate this one, but I want to duplicate my reception desk, since it's already kind of set up for my baluster placement. Sorry, rail placement. We made a rail. Right. So we can now get our reception desk 2 in here, change the material of it, set its height. Probably needs to be a little higher than 4 feet. I didn't really draw it super accurately. We flip to our 3D, and I still have my wine glasses sitting on there, but you can see that basically just extruded that profile along the rail path. And the wine glass is literally, I think I renamed it wine glass. It's a baluster. Where is it? I'm not seeing it. Oh. What's its name? Wine glass family 7. So this, I just opened up the baluster family, but if I select on this and say edit family, it takes me to a generic model family. So you can model anything in a generic model component family and load it into a open baluster family. And then once it's in a baluster family and then you load it into your project, it acts similarly to a baluster and sweeps along that rail path. And likewise, you can do it with lights, so exterior lights. This is one that this particular light is just an exterior fixture that's already made. It's trying to load it into this project. So you would go in and open up a new baluster family post, right? And go to your floor plan. Let's just load it, insert it directly in. You can load a family We can pretty much load any one of these families into this other family. And so you can have nested families is what it's called. Or you nest a family within a family. Let's do the other light. And place it on the center. And it's just a regular light post. And if you wanted to create a custom light post, you could go up to New, Family, and I might always light fixture ceiling based, light fixture wall based, and then there's just a standard light fixture and a linear, and then there's linear ones. But this would be like the family that you would use to create your own exterior lamp. And so just not to get super confused, but basically it gives you a globe, right, of light, which you can change how the light source looks, right, depending on what type of kind of light you want to see out of this thing. And then you could start to model something, you know, with the reference plane similar to we've been modeling everything else in this class so far, like the masses using the revolve command, you know, extrusion, blend, revolve, sweep, and just note whatever object you make as the globe, right, for the light to sit in, that material needs to be transparent. Otherwise, it's a solid material, light won't get through it, right? Let's get back really quickly to this guy and load him into our project. And I can add one more of these in here, and I'm going to guess it's family 6. Hit apply. And so now we have 2 different types in there. But again, it's just swept along a rail path. So that's pretty much it for tonight. Again, try to apply this to in-class project 5. Doing a kind of custom stair similar to where I placed my stair in the project, and also a railing that then kind of sits on level 2 there, that's connected, you know, to the stair rail itself. Create a custom baluster, throw it in the rail. Try a custom rail profile for the railing itself, and then also, you know, try a custom, you know, reception desk of some sort on the first floor. You know, give it a shot. See if you can get it to work. Apply some materials to it. You know, make some choices. Use standard Revit file material, or if you want to get fancy with it, download some materials from the internet and start applying your own materials. And I will make a tutorial about ramps, probably in the file itself, and kind of show you that front ramp that I made, how to kind of use the ramp tool and create that lower area. And so if we can get that kind of buttoned up and done for Tuesday, we can move on to placing some more furniture, a couple lights, and start looking at how do we render this model to get some images out of it for Thursday next week. And then we'll also talk about sheet sets and stuff like that. So how to create sheet sets, placing views on sheet sets, how to create custom title blocks and things like that. And you guys already know how to dimension stuff, so you want to start to apply some dimensions once we create those views, things like that. So it's all coming together here rather quickly, so try to get through that this weekend. Great, thanks for staying the extra couple of minutes.
No problem.
Okay, so our goal here is to create this lower pad here with the with a ramp going up to our level 1. So the first thing we want to do is figure out what depth this needs to sit at. And so in our east elevation, you can go ahead and take a look, and let's change our view scale to 1/8 of an inch equals a foot. You can see that our lower courtyard is at -4 feet. So let's go ahead and create a lower courtyard level, hitting the control button and clicking and dragging on level 1. I can create a level 4, which probably needs to be at -4 feet, and we can change level 4's name to reading lower courtyard, and use that little guy to bring him down just like so. So now we at least have a starting place here where we can go ahead and start to use a building pad to sink into the ground. We want to get our floor plan up here, so I'm going to go to View and Floor Plans and create the lower courtyard floor plan. And you can see that nothing, not just nothing, everything shows up here. And I think I want to copy my level 1, so we have this. I want to copy this image to my clipboard and paste it to my lower courtyard so I can see what's going on here fairly easily, because we need these dimensions. Just a side note, you can use the copy to clipboard command between files, so it might behoove you to use that to go ahead and do the interior walls on the first and second floor. It might speed up the process in some regards there. So just a little side note, a little hint on production there. So we need to go ahead and create this building pad, but we're also going to want to create a building pad for this as well. And we'll notice that this building pad cuts in, and right now it goes all the way through on ours. So first we need to edit this building pad before we can create the other one, because you can't have two building pads sitting on top of each other. So we're going to go ahead and use this 12'7" here to figure out where we need to get that cut line there. So 3 feet, or number 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's just go ahead and use a model line, and we're going to draw one about there, and we're going to set this 12 feet 7 inches excuse me, off of this third, I believe it's the third one. Yeah. So that we can go ahead and start to edit this pad. So I'm going to edit the boundaries here. And we're going to use this pick line tool to just grab that dimension there. And I can use my trim to line command there, which is this button here, trim extend multiple elements or a single element. And we can go ahead and offset by 8 feet this line. And now we can trim these guys with the TR command, and trim these, and trim this to this. And so we're just creating that indent for the ramp, the 8-foot ramp, to come down to this pad here that we're going to make in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and click finish. And now I want to go ahead and create a new building pad. So I'm going to go to my site massing and create a new building pad. And I'm going to use my lines here to start. And I'm going to align those and align that and align this one. Now, I'm not going to lock it down because we need to manipulate this a little bit more. So our pad sits 16 feet 1 3/8 inch off of this one. So you can go ahead and offset 16 feet 1 3/8 and go ahead and click that. And let's see where this lies here. So let's just go ahead and grab a calculator here, and we've got 18 plus 8 plus 30 is 56, plus 4, 56 4 3/8 of an inch. .56 4 3/8. And I'm going to use my trim tool to go ahead and trim these guys up. And we're going to go ahead and click finish. So what that's starting to look like in 3D is we're sinking this pad down a little bit further. And now that we can go ahead and delete that model line that we created now that we have this pad in place. And we can also go ahead and sink this down an extra couple of feet, because we're going to basically, -2 feet. We're going to place a floor in here, and we're going to change, with the modify element tool, we're going to change some of the slope of it. So we don't want the pad and the floor to intersect each other. Let's go back to our lower courtyard. And we can start to put in our floor here. So let's grab a floor. I'm just going to go ahead and use my generic 12-inch floor. Yeah. And basically want to just consume this pad, and we can go ahead and maybe not align that, but we can get pretty darn close by just kind of nudging it over. That one looks pretty good, and that one looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit the check button, and then I can modify the sub elements here. And I'm just going to pick that line and give it a slight slope of -2 inches. And so as you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but from our I think it's on the site, we've got these set at -4 inches, and these 2 points are at -4, 2 and 15/16. 2 inches is just fine. So the next step is to create this ramp. So let's go ahead and go back to our lower courtyard, and we want it to be an 8-foot ramp with these dimensions here. We might have to do a little bit of adjustments on the length of this, but we'll see. So architecture tab, ramp tool. Similar to the stair tool, you have a run, boundary lines, and a riser. We don't really need a riser in here. And we also have our base level constraint, our top level constraint, the width, and we can also edit the type and change the thickness, the function of it, maybe exterior instead of interior, and the ramp material, and the maximum incline length. Its default is 30 feet because ADA says that you can't go more than 30 feet without a landing. And ADA also says that the ramp maximum slope needs to be 1 to 12. So basically you don't really want to manipulate that if you want to meet ADA codes, and same with this as well. But in some instances you may have to, and that's where, you know, variances come in and things like that in the real world. So for now, we're going to go ahead and leave this at 30 feet and a ramp 1 to 12 slope on the ramp. And we're not going to go ahead and duplicate this because I didn't really change anything in here, and I'm not going to apply a ramp material, but you're more than welcome to do that if you'd like. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to change the width to 8 feet. And so I'm going to start at my lower level, which is here, and it's going to want to draw 30 feet before it rests, and then I'm going to draw the next half of it, and it's another 30 feet. And it looks like that was enough to get through to get to the top. So let's just see what this dimension comes out to be. And our dimensions, we've got 30 feet, 8 feet, 18 feet, 4 3/8. So we can go ahead and edit these a little bit. 8 feet. And I'm just going to nudge this thing till we get kind of right where we want it. Doesn't have to be exact. And it looks like our ramp is about 2 inches longer than my original ramp. Let's just go ahead and finish this and see what that's starting to look like. So the ramp looks good, but I don't necessarily want to extrude my my table, my reception desk along it. But let's use our custom handrail. Well, maybe not. It's not really a good option either. So let's just use the pipe guardrail for now. And it looks like the handles are on the wrong side. So let's go back to our level here and flip them with the little arrow buttons. And that's starting to look pretty good. But you'll notice that we've got some dirt here that we need to retain. So I'm going to go ahead and put in some retaining walls, and then we'll pretty much be done with this guy. And it looks like we have, this is overlapping, this building pad is overlapping a bit. So we can go ahead and edit that as well. I'm going to edit this and just go ahead and snap him there, and we can go ahead and lock him down. So we're on lower courtyard, and we can go ahead and put in some retaining walls here. We use the 12-inch generic, I believe, masonry generic, and we want to change these to 4 feet. Should be good. And we can just go ahead and use the pick line tool and go finish face exterior. And we'll have to trim this up a little bit and move our railings, but we can start to move our railings in a little bit here. A little nudge, and it looks like this wall didn't go all the way. We can just go ahead and connect him to the end there, and if we're working in 3D, it's a little easier to see. And we probably don't want this wall. Use the trim command to trim that up. And we can also go ahead and, with the little drag wall blue button there, we can right click that and say disallow join. And what that allows us to do is, let's first get these walls, and let's make this 4 feet 6 inches, and now go to level 1. You should start to see them there. It allows this to move without affecting these other 2 walls underneath it. So what I did was I right clicked that and clicked click disallow join, and it allows me to move that without it trying to intersect these other 2 walls. And then we can also go ahead and, what happened to that wall? It's still there. So we want to trim those 2 walls up as well. So there you have it. We've got a ramp in here with our retaining walls, and our slope is working for us. And just to make sure that everything's attached to each other here, we can go ahead and attach the base of these walls to our sloped floor there. Alright, so that's basically the ramp tool. Just to go, I guess, a little bit further into it, wonder why that wall's not showing up. At any rate, if we edit this sketch similar to our stair tool, we can use an array of drawing techniques to draw this, so it doesn't have to necessarily be rectilinear. You can make custom ramps as well. Again, there's a slope line that you have to be careful of. You have to connect it from each riser point. So this is riser, this is a riser, this is a riser, and this is a riser. And you want to close your ramp with risers and any landings with risers, but then the boundary lines are the green ones, and you can pretty much make them any shape and it should start to work for you. Don't necessarily like that we can't see that line for our retaining wall. So let's just see if we can edit this to being unlimited, and there we go, we've got it popping up here, and it looks like our railings snapped back to the ends. Let's take a look at that and make sure that they're where they need to be. Well, that's a little odd. Go ahead and delete that and redraw a new railing there, because obviously that one wasn't quite working out the way we wanted it to. Note again, I'm clicking separate lines where the slope changes. Want that type of guardrail. That's my custom one that I never actually changed. There we go. Now that's working more the way we want it to. I'm going to hit that little button to flip the railing to the side that we want it to be on. And there you go. We now have an ADA ramp that goes down to our little lower courtyard space. So again, by Tuesday, make sure that you have this lower courtyard space and ramp in your file with the retaining walls, and then your custom stair and custom railing, and also the interior walls on the first floor and second floor with doors placed, and also these windows in the back as well. So you have the file to follow, and you should have the plans in this file already, so it shouldn't be too difficult. You can also utilize the copy to clipboard tool to copy the walls over. That's a FYI kind of thing if you're running out of time and need to do that. And again, I also made a custom reception desk and placed it there. You don't necessarily need to place it in that location, but just go ahead and place your custom rail reception desk somewhere in the file on the first floor. So yeah, that's it, and I'll see you on Tuesday.